Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of Chats from the Blog Cabin. Today I am joined by, I honestly think you're my idol because you wrote this book. This book is so hilarious. I absolutely love it. But Meredith, ask me what's for dinner one more time. Inappropriate thoughts on motherhood. It's an amazing book, guys. It is so funny.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was, it started out, they wanted, I think, more of something that was a little more like a novel from me. And I was like, no, I don't do that. I tell stories, and each story doesn't necessarily connect to the other by any stretch. These are just my thoughts and things that have happened. And if you want to hear my stories, it's almost like chapter books for moms. Like it's not by any stretch the next great American novel, but it is supposed to, and the goal is it's supposed to be a support to moms and give you a laugh and give you a shoulder to vent and cry on. And that was the purpose of it. So hopefully that's what it's doing.
So before we get more in depth with the book, tell us a little bit about yourself, Meredith.
Oh geez, Louise. Let's see. I'm 40. I have a 14-year-old son, an 11-year-old daughter, and a 10-year-old son. We moved in the middle of a pandemic, which was a brilliant idea. And we now live in Northeast Florida. And I have been doing this. And I say this, I've been doing the podcast, writing books, doing sketch comedy, stand-up comedy, working to create content for brands for 6 years now.
Wow. I honestly say that I think within the first chapter, once your publicist sent me the book, within the first chapter, I'm like, I have to interview this chick because she's so funny. Just some of the things, I'm like, I'm glad I'm not the only mom that thinks this way,
Well, I think most of us think that way. It's just who's going to say it. Excuse me. So I've always said, I'll say it so you don't have to. Like, you don't have to be the bad guy. I'll be the bad guy. It's fine. I know a lot of what I say is definitely unfiltered, but I believe that there is too much of a filter on a lot of what we see. And everybody is concerned with showing the proper picture and writing the post, in such a way that it's not going to offend anyone, and making sure that things are done in a manner so that it's palatable for all. And there's no such thing as palatable for all. That's not think about it. You can meet somebody and they can gripe about a slice of cake it's cake. It's like, oh my gosh, we're eating cake, but somebody can have a problem with eating cake or drinking a glass of wine or having a great cup of coffee. So to me, it's like, you're not going to make everybody happy. So you may as well say the things you want to say.
Do you think that's the secret of your success? Because you have over 1 million followers, correct?
We're getting ready to cross 3 million on Facebook, which has been very exciting. That's pretty much that's my big platform. That's where I started. Now we've branched out. We're about 350,000 on Instagram. I just started a TikTok. Lord save us all. I do not understand that at all. But of course, everybody's like, you got to have a TikTok. You got to have this. You got to have. So we're branching out. But the goal is just to reach out to moms, women, wives, and just say, hey, it's okay. You're not alone. We are all going through very similar things. So just, take a second, relax, have a laugh, because if you don't laugh, you're just going to cry a lot.
Now, in your bio, it says you were a former teacher and you had a health scare. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I did. I taught for, I think, 13 years. So for a while, I taught middle and high school, and I loved a lot of aspects about teaching. Some of the lesson planning and things like that I was not great with, because I am absolutely organized chaos. So that was never my strong suit when it came to teaching. And I taught, let's be clear, I taught history, but for the bulk of my career, it was PE and health. So I was playing kickball with the kids. I was teaching sex ed. And these were things that, you know, I enjoyed doing, because I think I have such a sarcastic nature that, you know, sex ed was always fun for me. And I know people would be like, oh my gosh, how could you ever talk to a group of high school kids about sex? And it's like, well, because everybody's going to have sex. Everybody's going to do these things that, you know, procreate, whatever. Like, you may as well talk about it and give them information in an entertaining way. So I enjoyed my job. But in 2014, I did have what I call now I was given a gift. I found out that I had an esophageal tumor, and due to the location of said tumor, I could not have a biopsy done. So they didn't know if it was cancer or not. And so they basically gave me a couple of weeks to quote unquote get my affairs in order. And let's be honest, we were two teachers with not a nickel to our names, and 3 kids. I was 34 at the time, 3 young kids. So I didn't really have any affairs to get in order. I was just worried about who was going to continue to feed my family and wash their laundry. Like, those were my concerns. So it got me thinking. It was this real crossroads for me, because I was in this situation where I had married the right guy. I had these 3 beautiful, healthy, wonderful, loud, rambunctious children. And when the doctor explained the fact that esophageal tumors are not only very rare, but they're usually cancerous and they're usually life-threatening, there was this array. So I could get in on the operating table and it could be cancer, and they would give me a few months and send me to hospice, or I could get in and it could be feeding tubes forever. It could be inability to process food. So you'll have to have a feeding tube and maybe, you know, some other things. And it was just this massive, like, all the way up to radiation, chemo, or we can resect it and do some additional surgeries and you'll be fine. So I, of course, assumed I was going to die. So I started planning my own funeral, because, you know, what 34-year-old has an esophageal tumor that cuts off their, you know, esophagus? Like, I was like, how is this, like, how am I this lucky? Come on. Like, how does this happen? But, it made me think. It was the first time in my life that I stopped and really thought about the things that I had done. If I was happy with the choices that I had made when it came to my career, I knew that personally I had done the things that I wanted to do. I had these 3 kids. I married the right guy. But I looked at my life and I was like, you know, I remember when I was 8 and I said I was gonna write books. And I remember when I was 12 and I said I was going to be on Saturday Night Live. And I remember when I was 15 and I really wanted to, like, I was the weirdest kid. I loved Barbara Walters like nobody's business. Like, I wanted to be Barbara Walters. I wanted to interview these like famous and infamous people and like politics, like you name it. Like, I wanted to do Barbara Walters' job. And I remember thinking to myself, if I die, when I go in for this surgery, or if they tell me that this is cancer and they can't fix this, I didn't do the things that I said I was going to do. And so I went in for the surgery, and luckily the tumor was, they were able to remove it. They did have to take a large chunk of my esophagus with it. So I did have to have 2 more surgeries after the fact to continue to, you know, sort of keep my organs all inside my body. But they said to me, hey, you know, you're going to be able to eat. You do not, you know, you don't have to have any chemo or radiation. We were able to get this entire thing. go about your business. And I, looked at my husband, and I remember saying, I have things I have to do. I have things I'm supposed to be doing. And he said, yeah, okay. And so I had the surgery in August. I wrote my first blog entry on my blog page October 1st. And ever since then, if I want to do something, I find a way to make it happen. And nobody is going to tell me no. Now, you can tell me no. I'll still find a way. I'll go ask somebody else.
So what do you think you can contribute your success to? Because like you said, you have over 3 million followers on Facebook, and you're up to 350,000 on Instagram. What do you attribute your success to?
Well, I think what people want is to be seen and heard. And so I do my very best each and every day to share the stories and to share the things that I'm going through that I believe they will relate to. And I do that because I remember sitting in my closet crying and thinking, oh my gosh, woe is me. Nobody could possibly understand, the fight I just had with my husband, or the argument I just had with my kids, or the problem I'm having at my son's school, or after a therapy session with my youngest, who's on the spectrum and has a brain injury from a birth injury, or a brain damage from a birth injury. And so I remember thinking, it's, woe is me. And it's like, well, wait a minute. There are so many people whose children will be or have been diagnosed with autism. There are so many women who are fighting with their husband because their husband is not participating in the daily household chores, and they're struggling, or they're not listening to their spouse, or they're not, they're not feeling like they're being heard. There are so many women who have 3 kids under the age of 8, and, are doing diapers as well as, running around and chasing these kids. So I finally got out of my own way and realized, number one, I'm not alone. And number 2, why not talk about these things? You need to stop. Let me open the door. Hold on one second.
Okay.
This is Ruth, and Ruth is very ill behaved, much like the children. Do you need to go out? Is that what this is about? Can somebody please put out Ruth? Thank you. I'm sorry. That was her letting me know that she needs to go to the bathroom, and if I don't let her out, she'll go on the floor.
Oh, that one just like that.
Yeah, and she's a big dog, so we do not want her doing that on the floor. But so I want these women to know that I'm here for you. I've got your back. You can come to our community and vent and talk about these things and enjoy a space where you really are in good company. Like it's being a woman, a wife, and a mother is not only not easy, it's exhausting, and it's overwhelming, and it's joyous, and it's wonderful, but it's complicated. And if we don't talk about the complicated side of motherhood, and we continue to just show this like bed of roses Hallmark TV crap, pardon my language, we're not going to be able to have real open discussions about the way we feel in our role as mothers.
That is so true. Honestly, I have been watching your Facebooks, and I love how you're just getting on, and you're like, your hair's up however you fix it that day, and you're folding your laundry, and you're just talking, because that's what moms do. But I think a lot of people out there think these curated mom versions of television, you don't see moms doing laundry anymore. You see moms going out and getting all the money and not doing anything at home anymore. So I love that.
Well, because here's the thing. I've said it time and again. First of all, you can't have everything all the time. You can't. I don't believe in balance. I believe you sacrifice certain things. You can attempt to maintain some form of balance, but the whole thing is it's a give and take. It's between, my husband and I both work together now on this. He produces my podcast. He helps me when I'm, creating content. Sometimes he'll shoot my videos. We usually kill each other when he shoots my videos, but I need his help. It's a very small operation that we have here, but I do all the laundry. I do the majority of the dishes. If you're looking at my socials or you're watching me, you're going to see me doing the things that we're all doing, because who else is going to do it? That's what I say to my husband all the time. He'll say, oh, leave it. We'll get to it later. I'm like, who is we? Because you're not going to do it later. I'm going to do it later, And so of course you're going to see me this is my element. And I also go out and in a normal world, when it's not COVID, I am flying to do shows and doing some really fun, cool, exciting things. But when I get home, the piles of laundry are still there.
Real life.
And so real life happens, and I just feel like, why not come along for the ride, right? Come along on the journey, because that's what real life is. And I always say, when people say, so what do you think about these curated moms, these Pinterest worthy, perfect, filtered, wonderful? And I say, you don't know her when the video turns off or when the door closes. You don't know her. So we have no clue what's going on behind the scenes of that completely curated life. So I'm not about to throw stones. But what I will say is, if you're doing that because you think that's what society wants to see from you, I beg you to show us who you truly are, because that stigma needs to go away, because the cultural norm of what a mother should look like is so outdated, and it's so not what we are today as moms. And a mom is one thing that one part of me is a mom. I also have a name. It's Meredith. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm also a wife. I'm also a sister. I'm also a friend. I'm also a business owner. I'm also a comedian. I'm also an author. I'm also a podcaster. We have all these parts to us, right? I mean, to say Melissa is a mom and that's it is doing a terrible disservice to who Melissa is. So for me, I get really passionate when somebody says, well, mom should fit in this one box, and this is, and that's who you are, and that's all you are, and once you've had those kids, that's it. And it's like, what do you mean that's it? They're going to grow up and leave. I still have to be Meredith when they're done and gone and grown and going off to have their own kids,
Yeah, because I'm in that empty nest phase now. My youngest is 18, so I'm got that empty nest going on. I have 3 girls, 25, 22, and 18. So I'm on the flip side of it. But still, it's hard.
And you are now in that empty nest situation, which is the goal, right? You want to launch them and get into that. But once you're there, once you're in that spot, it's so important to know that you have a purpose that is other than serving those children and serving that spouse and being that, person who does the doer of all things, as I say. So you better know what you like, what you want to do, how you want to spend your time, because it really is. I hate the cliche saying, but it happens in a blink. Like I was looking at, I hate those Facebook memory things that come up in your feed from like years ago, 5 years ago. I just saw a picture of my youngest, who's 10, and he was curled up in my lap, the size of like a cat. And it was just like on me and asleep and like drooling on me. And I was just sitting there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he's so big now, it really happens quickly. And that's why I think moms get lost in motherhood. It goes so fast, and you're trying to keep up, and you're trying to get all the things done, and then you forget who you are. And then you blink and your youngest is 18 and you're like, oh no, what am I supposed to do now? Who am I?
Yep. It's like you have to go through a whole new identity crisis to try to figure out who you are separate from being a mom.
Exactly, which is why I'm so big on trying to get women to recognize those things along the way as their kids are even small, because I don't want it to hit you out of the blue. Mine hit me as a result of this health scare that I had. That tumor was a gift, and it made me realize, whoa, you put your whole life on hold to be a mom, so you're just going to not do anything for you or be anything you want for the next 18 years? Wait a minute. Hold on. That causes resentment. That causes depression, anxiety, unhappiness. It causes all of these things because you can be a mom and still be you.
Yep, you sure can. So what do your kids think about your career now?
I'm just the annoying mom, I'm just the embarrassing, annoying, naggy mom who yells at them to bring their laundry in so I can start another load. I don't know how many times in my life I've said, I have to start another load of laundry, but it's got to be a bajillion. But they think, some of it they think is neat. They think it's funny when people recognize me out in public, because they'll say to them, my mom's not really famous. And I'm like, honey, nobody thinks I'm famous. Normally I'm getting recognized either in the grocery store or Target. So, that's where the moms are, right?
Uh-huh.
But because they're like, my mom's not famous. I'm like, look, Sophia, dear sweet child, it's fine. Just hush. These are mommy's people. This is mommy's friend. But they laugh and giggle about it. They get excited when we get to do fun things as a result of my job. That's always fun for them. We've taken some really cool trips. And that's neat. Of course, they love it when mom gets invited to Disney World.
Of course.
Because that's fun for them. But, really, I have to say our life is it's just like pretty much every other family. We go to school, we clean, normally we go to school, clean house, do all of the normal things, take all of the normal trips. My youngest loves to skateboard. My oldest plays tennis. My daughter is in middle school, so she's all angsty and confused with life, which I don't envy. I feel like I'm going through second puberty, and it's awful. Oh my gosh. The mean girl drama. Wow. Yep. But it's the normal stuff. And we just take everybody along with us, right? It's like a really low budget version of reality TV.
Yep.
And that's what we do, who wouldn't love to be a Kardashian? But that is not who we are. That is not what I call reality. That is a very augmented reality. Only the Kardashians know what it's like to be a Kardashian,
yes,
I always say.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, you talked about your husband helping you full time. What is that like? Because obviously you're probably 24/7 around each other, or?
Yeah, for the most part, his desk is right over here next to mine. He does I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not an organized person. I have a calendar on my phone, literally a calendar on my desk, and notepads everywhere because I have so many thoughts and ideas. I'm constantly writing things down, but there's no organization with them. So it's his job to kind of decipher that and create it and make it organized. And then, obviously he helps with the podcast because that's a huge to do, as you know. And so he gets it edited and gets it all set up so that we can, get it out. He lines up the guests. When I say, see if this person will be on our show, see if this person wants to be on. He helps, like I said, with the video stuff. He helps anytime, somebody reaches out for something outside of the book, because the book was through, the publisher. But he sat with which is his job as the father. He sat with the kids while I wrote the book. There were chunks and chunks of time where I just say, I need the whole weekend. I need to write for 3 days. I need you to just let me sit out here and write for 3 days. And, he kept him alive. The house wasn't clean and the dishes weren't done and the laundry wasn't done, but I did get, chunks of time to write the book. But it's very interesting. We're very different people. So we see things very differently, which is probably the only reason that it works. I don't understand how people who are very similar can remain married, because sometimes I wonder how anything gets done. Because I will poke and prod him to get certain things done, and he does the same for me, because obviously there are things that I don't mind doing, and then there are things I dread. And we kind of have to force each other to do, the other thing. So I don't know, but we've managed now. I think it's been, gosh, I don't even know what year. I feel like it's been since 2017.
Wow, you took off really fast then. So I know there's bloggers that don't take off as fast.
Well, I started in 2014, and then I had my first viral video in 2016, because I switched from solely writing to adding the video component, which was a big thing for me, because I was trying to figure out how to get my jokes to come across, because I'm so sarcastic and I have such a dry sense of humor, that I needed something to kind of pair with the writing that I was doing. And it was the same time that Facebook started really promoting video on their platform to compete with YouTube. And so I was watching it and I was like, all these people are making videos and they're putting videos out on Facebook. I bet I could do that. And my husband's like, yeah, make a video for Facebook. And I was like, well, I'm going to do it. And he's like, okay. And I was like, well, I'm going to do it. And so I started making videos. And in May of 2016, I had my first viral video, which was what moms really want for Mother's Day, which is to be left the hell alone. And it was the weirdest thing, because I went from having literally, like, I don't know, maybe there were 3,000 followers on the page at that point, to the end of that month, we had 60,000.
Wow.
After that first viral video, it just went crazy. And you either loved it or you hated it. This video had 10 million views over a weekend, and it was a 50-50 split. You either hated me for the things I was saying about mothers and Mother's Day, or you were like, preach, yes, girl, yes. So it was very polarizing. And I think that's the other reason that my stuff has a tendency to do well, is because it can be very polarizing. The things I'm saying, you either love it or you hate it. Like, I'm not lukewarm. Nobody comes here and is like, nobody stays if they're wishy-washy about me. Like, you love me or you hate me. I feel like it's very one or the other.
So where do you get your ideas for your everyday life, for your videos? Is that where you get your ideas from, inspiration?
Well, yeah, I feel like there's no need to search. Sometimes I get, now this is solely on TikTok, because I don't see this a lot on Facebook, but TikTok is a very weird platform. And it is driven by these kids, these teens and young adults. And so it baffles me, because I'm 40 and I don't really understand it, but most of it is staged, right? Like, this is all staged, sketched out stuff, which I do some of that on Facebook, but my stuff is all these real life topics or ideas or things that happen. So, like, I might make a sketch video about loading the dishwasher and how my husband does it wrong, and I get pissy because I have to reload the dishwasher, right? I feel like there are lots of women who can relate to reloading a dishwasher or rewashing or cleaning something your husband has quote unquote already cleaned. And it's like, well, you clearly didn't clean this because there's syrup all over the counter. So how did you clean the kitchen and miss a gallon of syrup, right?
Yep.
And so I might sketch those things, or I'll just talk about them or rant about them. But I feel like, because I'm 40, my take on these things obviously is resonating with other women my age. So some of these new platforms, they blow my mind, because I don't understand how anybody can have 300 million subscribers. But these kids are out there and they are slaying it and killing it. And my hat's off to them. But I am a older mom. I'm slower. I do things at a bit of a slower pace. So my daughter's like, we need to get up there on TikTok and really start competing. And I was like, no, I'm not here to compete.
Mhm.
I'm here to watch what these other children are doing and then maybe throw a video up I'm not here to compete. This is not my speed. This is much too quick for me. Mom is much slower. But I just think life gives you a lot of ideas. There's no need to come up with something, so to speak.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, look at everyday life. Look at the stuff that we're all going through, you know?
Yeah. So how has COVID made you switch? Because obviously you said your kids are home, right?
Two are back at school. The third is not. And that's once again, we're just waiting to see with numbers and cases if we stay open. I'm hoping we do because the elementary and the middle school have done a great job. The high school has just exploded with cases because they're high school kids and they don't follow rules and they don't wear their
Mhm.
masks and they lick each other. So it's bound to happen. So my high schooler is at home, which he hates it, but he understands, like, you know, there's no reason to go to school in the middle of this at this moment. But it's definitely been a really weird year for everyone, I think.
Mhm.
It has caused us to spend way more time than we would normally spend together. There aren't extracurricular activities. My kids aren't playing the oldest plays tennis, which is acceptable because they're socially distanced, but
Mhm.
my youngest can't play soccer, he can't play flag football. He's and he is the kid who needs those sports because he is a 24/7 go go go.
Oh wow.
The kid has ADHD. He's on the spectrum. He is just like he's constantly moving. So this has been hard for him and for us because he needs the outlet. So he is on his skateboard or his bike every afternoon after school for hours. He just goes.
Mhm.
But it's been hard. It's been very weird, but it's also made us reflect on and be grateful for the things that we have and the time that we have. And it's given us the opportunity to kind of slow down a bit because I haven't traveled. The
Mhm.
last time I flew for work was February. So, and I was traveling sometimes twice a month. So it's given us, we've slowed down and just kind of focused on what we could do. Because like I tell my kids, you can only control yourself. We can't control what's happening outside in this crazy
Mhm.
world around us, but we can control the things that we do and the choices that we make. And so that's what we'll do.
So when you get up every day, do you have a set schedule? Like today, I'm going to go on Facebook Live, or you just kind of wing it and just to say, you know what, I feel like going on live today.
No, I haven't. I am so scheduled. It's not even funny. My husband has made me color coded schedules. He times, places, everything. And that is helpful to me because I have so much anxiety. I know, like,
Mhm.
every day I go live on Facebook at 1 o'clock during the week. Every Wednesday night I have my Wines Day show. Every Friday morning I have my Filter Free show. Every Thursday night I co-host a show with my friend Dina from One Funny Mother. Every Thursday we record podcasts. So we have very set schedules in that sense. I make videos when I have an idea. I try to get one up every week, but like this week there won't be a new video. We've been trying to get ready for Thanksgiving, which
Mhm.
is really not that difficult this year because it's just the five of us. But the stores have been out of things. So I've had to go to several stores to get what I need for one meal. So, like those types of things. This week, I was just like, I doubt I'll get a new video up. But everybody knows I'll show up for our 1 o'clock lives. I'll show up for the shows. I try to stay connected as much as I can because this community has been such a support to me. And especially during COVID, I want to be a support to them. So they show up for me, I show up for them.
Now you talk about Thanksgiving. The holidays are mentioned a lot in your book about your in-laws coming and then relatives coming. To talk about that because that's so funny. I was dying on that part.
I guess it's going to be really weird this year because we won't have people coming. My in-laws, I laughed out loud when I was reading the audiobook of my book, because I was talking about my mother-in-law in one instance, and, we had this falling out, and literally after the book was published, she wrote me an apology letter, like a genuine apology. And I said to my editor, I was like, can we write like an addendum? Because my mother-in-law actually did apologize. And she's like, nope, the book has gone to print. And I was like, oh, well, okay, that ship has sailed. But but we did. We had a couple of years ago, we had this falling out, and it was very awful to have in-laws that you were not on good terms with. But as a logical human being, I needed to disconnect from the toxic relationship and just say, I have to live my life, and these are the things that we have to do. You can see your grandkids. Obviously, this is your son. I will never tell you not to spend time with your child or my children, but I don't have to be involved. And she eventually apologized, and so things have been better, but they don't live close to us. So this is the first year that we actually will have no family visiting. And it's very weird because normally in a non-COVID world, we would travel to see them, or more my parents or whatever. But, nobody really wants to receive visitors from the outside area, which we understand. So it's like, no, we'll just stay home this year. But normally, we have a lot of chaos at the holidays because we're a big family. I'm one of four. And all of my siblings, my brother has 4 kids. I have 3 kids. My other brother is expecting his first child. And my sister is getting married this year. So there are a lot of things coming up. So I'm hoping March, when my sister gets married, that we'll have been vaccinated by that point and can have a regular, so to speak, event. Wouldn't that be great? So we're hopeful for her wedding in March that things will be, quote unquote, getting back to normal. But I have learned that from 2020, that I have no clue what's going to happen.
Wow. But I think another one of my favorite parts of the book was when you talk about when you're going to the bathroom and, when your kids are like, they won't bother dad when dad's in the bathroom. But when mom's in the bathroom, it's like no holds bars. It's free.
No, they come right in. They don't care if you shut the door. They come barging in, and it's like, and they say, well, you don't smell as bad as dad. And I'm like, well, okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that I don't smell as bad as your father, but I still want privacy just like dad gets. I don't need you in here. It's not like they're small anymore. My youngest is 10. They still come in to the bathroom. It's like, no. And people always say, well, lock the door. Here's the reason I don't lock doors. My kids are still at that point, even at 10 and 11, where they could set something on fire. And if I need to run through quickly, I don't want to be messing with a locked door. I lock doors for very specific reasons. There's pretty much one reason I lock my door, and that is the only reason I lock the bedroom door. But like, if I'm in a bathroom and I need to make a very quick getaway to like extinguish a fire or separate 2 children that are having fisticuffs, I just don't lock doors. Obviously, I guess that could work, but I don't know why they can't just respect a closed door. Don't come in, get out. Maybe I'll eat more beans. I don't know.
That is so funny. But honestly, I think a lot of people who would read this book will definitely identify with the fact that dad could be sitting there, but they go straight to mom. Dad could be sitting right next to them, but if something happens, they go straight to mom with the question, or they ask mom to do it instead of dad. Every time.
And it's like, he's right here. That's why I actually have a shirt in my merchandise store that says, go ask your father. I literally had to make a shirt that said, go ask your father, because he is right there. Like, you do not need to ask me for a snack or ask me for a drink or ask me to help get something off of a shelf. You have a father who is right there. And I finally was just like, I'm not helping you. There's another able-bodied parent here. go ask them, and it, eventually it did work. And they did start asking him for things, but they also know, because kids are smart, what to ask me for versus asking him for, because they know what he's going to say no to, and they know what I'm going to say no to. So like every other kid on the planet, they know how to manipulate you and play you off of each other, because kids are smart.
Yeah. So let's talk about the book. How did it come about? Did they reach out to you, or did you have a proposal and just?
Oh yeah, no. Well, I had a book agent who she's wonderful, Rachel. She's very, very lovely woman. She was after me for like 6 months, and I just would not give her the time of day, because I was like, nobody's going to pay me to write a book, so I need you to just not ask me anymore. And she was like, no, no, no. I think what you're doing on your Facebook page, I think what you're doing with your community, I think you need to have a published book. Because I did self-publish my first book. And so I said, okay, if you think that we could put this together and somebody's going to bite, I'm for it. And so we did put together a proposal, and we did, in fact, Simon and Schuster did decide that they were going to publish the book. And it changed a bit. Like I said, it went from this very long form narrative to more of these digestible, bite-sized topics and pieces, because I felt it was important for a mom to be able to pick up the book and read a section and put it down and not be lost in the story. Like you can just pick it up and read something, and then if you can't come back to this book for 2 weeks, that's fine. You're not going to miss anything. You can just come back, pick it up again, and read another story. Like I said, one doesn't have to do with the other per se. I talk about our road trip in 2019, and then I talk about, my oldest son telling me he wants to date, which was like a knife in my heart, to going through, the beginning of puberty with my daughter. Like it's all over the place.
And I love that. It's almost like a manual for moms in a sense. It's like to say, hey, you're not alone.
Yeah, that was the goal. So I'm glad that it did that for you, and I hope it does that for others. But I'm definitely really proud of the book, and I hope I can continue to write more. And as my kids go along the journey, obviously you have more stories. And I do feel like this sort of middle spot is kind of at a loss, because there's all these books on babies and toddlers, and then there's a lot of ungrown and flown, but it's kind of those middle years that, parents are scratching their head and saying, is this normal? Which nothing is normal, I say, but is this how other people feel? And I say, yeah, it is.
Yeah, because the middle years, you're right, they're the toughest years to parent, because the puberty, the hormones, and the boys and the girls, and like you said, the mean girls. I have all girls, so I had the mean girls times 3. So
it's just that physical and emotional exhaustion from those types of things is what does you in at the end of the day. It's that kind of stuff, and it's all part of parenting. But some days can be really heavy, and you feel like you're going to cry yourself to sleep, and other days are just filled with laughter, and the kids, everybody gets along and it goes great. Or somebody, craps on the floor. You don't know what you're going to get. Could be a dog, could be a kid. I don't know.
So you have 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a husband. So tell us about what a typical day in the life of Meredith is.
It's your typical day. We get up, we get the kids off to school. I'm a bit of a workout fanatic. It's how I get my anxiety out. So I work out every morning. I come into the office, I reply to emails, I reply to Facebook comments, Instagram comments, just check in to see how people are doing in our online communities. We've got a supporter page. We've got some private Facebook groups. Then I'll do our 1:00 live, try and figure out what's going to be for dinner. I hate that we have to think of what's going to be for dinner every day. That's exhausting. Then I'll figure out what's going to be for dinner. My husband is usually the one who cooks, but lately I've been the one who's been, pulling the cooking card for some reason. And so I'll get dinner going, I'll do some laundry, I'll do some dishes. I mean, it's really, there's nothing glamorous, there is nothing super fun and exciting, but it's the stories of what we go through throughout the day that I connect with every other mom.
Yep.
And that's, I think, why people tune in, and I think why they feel like they can relate to me, because I'm doing all of the same things that you are doing. I might have something really snarky to say about it,
yeah.
but I'm going through all of those things that you're going through. You know, I get my steam facials when I unload the dishwasher. You know, it's really just, that's what, you know, I watch, we sit down and eat it. I've got one still at the door. We sit down and eat dinner together and watch TV. We are not having these heartfelt, thoughtful conversations at the dinner table. We're watching some, like right now we're binging Who's the Boss. So we just, you know, that's life. The kids start to go to bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock. I try to go to bed by 9 or 10, which it never happens. I'm usually in bed by 10:30 or 11. And then we get up and do it over again. And some days I make videos, some days I do other things, but it's very, you know, it's the same stuff. You know, our jobs might be different, but the things that we go through throughout the day are pretty similar.
So, your videos, do you have a set that you just sit at, or do you decide you're going to pick a random place in your house that you're just going to shoot from?
Whatever the topic of the video is, I'll do it around that. There is no set. The only thing that has a quote unquote set is my podcast. I sit in the same chair to do the podcast. But other than that, it's just, sometimes I'll shoot in my car. Sometimes I'll shoot in the living room or the kitchen if we're talking about, you know, making dinner or doing dishes or whatever. It just depends.
So you said that you had anxiety. How did you overcome that?
I don't think you overcome it. I think you learn how to manage it. I don't know that there is an overcome, right? Because every night I just, you know, I sit, and before I fall asleep, I have a million worries that I try to figure out, and there's no figuring them out. But I exercise a lot. Some days twice. I exercised twice today because that's how I combat it and kind of, you know, give myself the ability to deal with it in that respect. I have tried medications. I've not found one that works. I've had some side effects. I do therapy. But it's not about, for me, it's not about overcoming. It's about learning how to manage and having like a toolkit to deal with it. And we also do some family therapy with my son. So, you know, I think you just find ways to manage and deal. And especially now during the pandemic, I think everybody's been on edge and anxious. My husband is not a very anxious person, and this has pushed him right to the edge.
So are you a mask person or no mask person?
I wear a mask. I believe a mask is about mutual respect in a time of COVID. So I'm wearing my mask to protect you, and I'm hoping that you'll wear your mask to protect me. I don't believe that COVID is anything political. I think that it became political, but in reality, it's science, right? It's a virus. And yes, we do have flus every year and other things, but when you look at the magnitude and how this thing has spread, and you know, we're you know, knock on wood, we're healthy people, right? We eat well, we exercise. My kids are not in the really young age, so we're kind of in this middle spot where you see that these kids are really resilient with this, and rarely do they even show symptoms. But I'm concerned that if I were to pick it up, or one of my children, and then we passed it on to an elderly person in the community, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a part of that. So we're doing as much as we can to wear our masks, sanitize, wash our hands. We don't eat out at restaurants. We do take out home. And we've just monitored what we're doing, because what we can control, we'll control. We're not traveling. We're not going places over the holiday. I was amazed at how many people traveled this last week for Thanksgiving. But I just feel like we will get over this at some point, in hopefully the near future. nothing that I'm doing is so imperative that I have to go out and travel or do things, because yes, Thanksgiving is a little different this year, but the 5 people that need to be together will be together.
Mm-hmm.
My husband, myself, my kids. That's all we need, you know? So that's my stance on it. Obviously, I know other people feel differently, but those are my choices. You know, I will vaccinate my family when the vaccine comes out. I know people have been saying, you know, like that's my personal view on it. I get the flu shot every year too, though, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, I was a teacher. I've been getting the flu shot since I was 22.
Yep.
That's my take on it. That's my opinion. So I don't know. We'll see. I do wish everybody a healthy, happy, safe holiday. And I do hope that everybody does their best to socially distance and do what they can to squash this thing, because everybody wants to get back to quote unquote normal.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. So what would you say to a first-time mom? What advice would you give them?
I would say you're not supposed to know what you're doing, so it's okay. Go with your gut. When you get a gut reaction, do go with it, because your gut, as a mom, I do believe in that intuition, and that you can, you know, there have been a lot of times where my gut has told me something and it was right. Realize that you are one person. You will not get everything done. Things will fall through the cracks. And make sure that your spouse knows when you need help, because they're not mind readers.
I love that last one. Because so many times we think our spouses are mind readers, and half the time they have no clue.
No, they're absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So what's up next for you now?
Oh, I have no idea, if we're being honest. I have no idea. Hopefully another book. I'm hoping to pitch a new book in January. So we'll see. I'm working on that and getting that sorted and finished right now. But yeah, I love writing books and doing what we're doing. And like I said, this is our everyday normal. So we just try to share what we're doing with others in hopes that it will help them. So
how can people find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook at Meredith Masony, and on Instagram, Meredith at That's Inappropriate, as well as on TikTok, Meredith at That's Inappropriate. And you can also find us at filterfreeparents.com, which is our parenting website. And of course, the book is on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah, the book. I honestly recommend it for anybody, especially during COVID, because a lot of people need to laugh. And I think there's a lot of funny stories that I think that's going to hit home with a lot of people, just to laugh and say, oh, that happened to me too. Or
yeah, that's what I was hoping for. Obviously, I was not planning on selling a book in the middle of a pandemic by any stretch, but I did hope, if nothing else, it would bring some levity, you know, and some laughs.
Well, Meredith, I want to thank you for joining tonight and wish you all the best in your endeavors. And I can't wait for book number 2, because this book is, I'm telling you, it's so funny. I loved it. I was sitting there laughing. I was like, I got to stop. I'm going to pee my pants.
Well, and that's another thing us moms do sometimes, is pee our pants. But I thank you for that. I appreciate being on and for the support. It's important that we stick together, because we, you know, moms need each other. And so the more we can lift each other up and help each other, the better.
Yep. That is so true. So guys, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next chat from the Blog Cabin. Bye.